Welcome to the Run Radio podcast. My name's Trina, and my guest co-host today is Brenda Maine. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. It's nice to be with you today.
It's nice to have you here. We've both been runners in the community for a while, and we were just talking about how it's such a great group of people. What is your favorite thing about our running community?
Well, when I run races in Springfield or in the surrounding areas, but specifically Springfield, I am amazed at how we come together with each other. 2020, for example, that was amazing. Even though everything shut down, races in Springfield, Bass Pro, they still happened. And that was just amazing. And people look out for each other, runners look out for each other. The posts that come onto Facebook when something tragic happens, they come on and they share it so other runners don't have to deal with that. And then even just the community people, they come out for the races, they cheer us on, and that's what keeps me going at a lot of races.
What made you get into running to begin with?
Oh my goodness. It's kind of long, and I've been thinking about this, knowing we were going to chat, but so I'll try to make it more concise. Growing up, I was a little girl who loved to play outside. I loved to play kickball, ride my bike, roller skates, play outside until it was dark. And then beyond that, it was safe in the 60s and 70s to do that. But then as I got older, got into junior high and high school, I was the band and choir geek. I wasn't an athletic person. In fact, I was quite awkward in gym classes, and I didn't do well on most of the stuff. And it just wasn't my thing. And so I went away. I came to Springfield to go to Evangel. It was in Evangel College, now Evangel University. And to my demise, everybody had to take a PE credit, which was a running credit.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't run. And in my mind, I thought I was fat. And it's funny, recently we pulled out some family pictures. I don't know why I ever got the idea that I was a fat kid. I was a little chubbyish, but not fat. But in my mind, I was a fat young lady. And I'm thinking, I can't run. I'm too big to do that. And so but I had to. And girls had to run a 10-minute mile. And that to me was like, I can't do that. So I had to try. And I had a friend on my floor. This was my freshman year. And I had a friend on my floor that had been my sister's friend at Evangel as well, because she had come to Evangel and had graduated in the spring before I came in the fall. But her friend, her name's Karen, she was still on the same floor I was living on. And Karen loved to run. So she said, I'll run with you. And I thought, okay. So we started running. And as I started running, I noticed a couple things. One, I lost weight. Two, I felt really good about myself. And there was just this something that made me just feel so alive when I ran. And first, it was very slow and it wasn't very far, but then we just kept building. And I can still remember the first time we ran 6 miles.
Oh, yeah.
I cried. I was like, oh my gosh, I ran 6 miles. And, so I did that through college and I loved it. And then I got married and I started a family. And I tried once in a while to go out and run, but it just didn't work with little kids and stuff. So it wasn't until into the 2000s, my husband and I, we became U.S. missionaries with the Assemblies of God, and we were living in the Chicagoland area. And I had always homeschooled our 3 children. And when we moved to Illinois, I checked into their policies in the state, what I needed to do to be compliant with the laws. And one thing they had to do is they had to have some kind of a phys ed credit. It's like, how do I do this? So we joined the YMCA, and it became family. My husband ended up being the opener. We were there all the time. And it was a slow start. And I can remember I could barely run, but I walked, and it just kept building. So then my husband and I, we decided to do a few 5Ks and a few 10Ks. We did a 10-miler Quarryman Challenge, which was unbelievably hard. And we just really enjoyed it. But in that, I got injured.
Oh, no.
So I went to a chiropractor. My sister was a true advocate of chiropractic. So I went to him, and he just adjusted me, said I just had some angry muscles and joints. So I shared with him, I said, well, when I was born in the 60s, late 60s, I was born in 66. I'm 57. I'm not embarrassed by my age. I have no problem with
You
my age
should
at all.
not be.
I'm not. And I'm not sure about 60. We'll see. Ask me again in 2 years. I don't know. But I shared with him. So when I was born, I was about almost 18 months old before it was found that I was born with hip dysplasia.
Oh,
And he said, wow, really? I said, yes. And so I told him, I said, what I remember my mom sharing was one of the sockets was completely out and the other one was mostly out. And she kept trying to get my doctor to listen that there was something wrong. I wasn't walking like I was supposed to. And it took finally a specialist seeing me. I don't remember any of it because I was only like
right.
18 months old.
Yeah.
And there's no pictures. My mom wouldn't let anyone take a picture. So there's
Oh,
like, really, mom, was it real? Did it happen? But they took me in and they got everything adjusted, put me in a body cast for like 6 weeks.
oh
And
goodness.
so as I was telling this chiropractor that, he said, well, you probably should never aspire to run a marathon. That'd be a lot of wear and tear on your hips. Well, it
Well,
wasn't too long after that, life changed on us and we relocated back down here in Springfield.
uh-huh.
And it wasn't long after that I found out there was this thing called the Bass Pro Marathon. And I had my
Okay.
challenge. So I signed up and I ran my first marathon at the age of 45 in 2011.
Your first full
And
marathon.
my first, and I never had ran a half. I had never
Oh,
ran a
oh,
half. Like, yeah. So we ran
you
a handful,
jumped.
like turkey trots and 10K,
Right.
couple 10Ks and a couple things like that. But I'd never even ran a half. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna prove him wrong. Um, by the time I was done, I thought, I will never do this again. This is awful. Why do people do this? This is so horrible. I had a goal to finish in 4.5 hours, and I did it in 4 hours and 19 minutes. Um,
Nice.
and about 2 weeks later, I was in a gym. Evangel has a gym, and my husband and I were in there. One of the coaches said, "Well, that sounds really like you did a great time. Did you have to walk any?" I went, "Yeah, I had to walk a little bit from mile 22 to mile 24, 25. I was really hurting. My hips were hurting really bad." And he said, "Oh, that's too bad." And I thought, I have to run another one and prove to myself I can run the whole thing. And since then, I love it. It's my time. Um, it's my time with the Lord a lot of times. I've done a lot of praying when I've been out running.
Mm-hmm.
I've met people that I would have never met. Not as much anymore because I don't run on trails, even the local
Yeah.
in-town trails. I don't run on them by myself anymore.
Yeah.
But even so, I've met people that see me because I'll run the same course around and around in my neighborhood, and then they'll say, "Hey, I've seen you out running before. You must really enjoy love." So it's just been one of those things where I've often been asked, and I'll say, I run because I can.
Yeah. Right. For
Shouldn't I
sure.
run? I can. The doctors told my mom, mom and dad, if they hadn't caught it when they did, I would have been wheelchair bound all my life
Oh my
because
goodness.
yeah,
What a
muscle
blessing.
atrophy would have set in and there would have nowadays that's not true. But I was born in the late 60s. So
Hmm.
medical stuff was different.
Yeah.
Um, I have been to a doctor since after my first Bass Pro because my hips hurt so bad. And they
Right.
read a full panel of x-rays. And he said, I have to tell you, your hips are put together perfectly for being the fact that you were put together by man. He said,
Oh my
often
goodness.
people that are put together by, and he kind of looked at me and said, you can say it. And he goes, people that are put together by God aren't always put together this well. He said, you are really spacing's beautiful because you know what? Run.
Yeah. Do you credit the muscular strength and building to running and having that muscular strength built up from that?
Um, yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
do know that if I'm not careful, and I've noticed it more because I know we've talking about over once we're over 50, and more of my running's been over 50 than before 50.
Wow,
Long
great.
distance running because
Yeah.
I'm 57. So 7 years of long distance running opposed to, um, but I do notice if I'm not careful and I don't do things like the stretching stuff, I find myself injured much more so. But I don't know. That just could be because the way I'm made.
Have you run a half since then?
Yes, I have. In fact, I just did the Best Pro half, and I did for the first time the Frisco. trail.
Yeah,
I
that's
did
a good
that.
term.
I did that half this year. I decided to take a year off of fulls.
Yeah.
Last year I ran the Bass Pro full and it really beat me up. I don't think I was ready, and I had been sick previously, and I went ahead and pushed and did it anyway. And I paid for it. I was sick for
Yeah.
a couple of weeks afterwards. I was really
Yeah.
beat up afterwards. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do a couple halves, and I had a blast at the Bass Pro
Good.
half.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah,
Great.
I like blew it out of the water for me. I wanted to do it in 2 hours, and I did it in an hour 54. So I was like,
Wonderful.
yeah, I was so
Fantastic.
stoked. I was so stoked.
This year, you guys had a great day for that race.
Yeah, we really did. And
You
then
really
I
did.
did Dogwood 25K, and that was even good weather too.
Yeah. And now, and talk a little bit to me, trail running and road running, and especially when you go to racing those, they are like a different exercise
Yes.
completely. They're a different sport.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're
they are.
just,
I prefer street racing.
me too.
That is really true. I'm not a big fan of the trail racing. So, but my husband, if he's going to run, he prefers the trail racing.
I see.
So we signed up again this year, and then he wasn't able to do it. He's has some genetic things that are kidney and heart related, and it's all genetics. He's had open heart surgery at 50 to change out a bicuspid aortic valve to a tri, and then he lost half of his kidney. A couple years later, he actually had what's called a horseshoe kidney. So all one, it didn't separate like it was supposed to when he was in the womb, and it's all linked together stuff. And he lost the whole left portion, and he just didn't feel like that he could run a 25K. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it by myself. Then he volunteered, which was fun having him out there volunteering. But this trail race, I don't know about others. I've only ever done the Dogwood.
Yeah.
This thing is a beast.
You said it.
It is a beast. Oh my goodness.
You leave all expectations at the starting line
Right.
and don't look back. It is so different.
Yes,
but
it
it's
is
beautiful, and it feels so good to finish, even when you're walking and hurting and struggling. It is just like, it's so different. It's hard to articulate.
Were you out there this
Not this year? No,
Okay,
I've only done it a few times, and it was like I'm saying, it was just, it's not natural for me. It is hard. My ankles roll, and it's just,
oh my gosh, yeah. This year was really bad. I saw a lot of people fell apparently because the leaf coverage was so bad. You couldn't see the rocks and such underneath it. I turned my ankles probably 3 or 4 times. I don't even remember which legs, both legs at some point.
Yeah.
One time I did bite it, and I just came flying onto the ground. And so sadly, I am dealing with a little bit of issue with my hip, the opposite hip that I fell on, that I've been in, nothing's broken. And that was my fear.
Good.
When I first fell, I laid there. I thought, wait, did I break anything?
Yeah. It's scary.
Get up and move, because you have to keep moving. Even if you did break an arm or something, you got to keep going till you find help.
Yeah.
But and then the one that was fun was actually funny. There's this section, and I haven't ran it for a couple of years, and they had changed, but there's a section where it's single file. I mean, only one runner can go through at a time, and you kind of go down this area and then go back up these rocks. And this year it was really treacherous to get back up. And as I went back up, I lost my balance. Thank you, Jesus. There was somebody behind me, because his hand just went and just pushed me right up.
Oh my God.
There's runners for you.
Yeah, that is a perfect example.
Yes, because I mean, I don't even know who it was. He just pushed me right up. I mean, he didn't even think twice. Like, oh my gosh, because I don't know what would happen if I'd kept falling. It'd been crazy.
So, of all the races that you've ran in the Midwest, let's say just in, the Springfield, Ozark area, what's been your favorite race? I don't care what distance.
Oh gosh. Well, since you made me stay here, otherwise I would tell you what was my most absolute favorite.
Tell me that one too. Tell me that one too.
Okay. Here, I love the Bass Pro full marathon. Now, this year the half was just, I don't know. I talked to John Everett afterwards, who's a icon in the running community, and I beat him. I got in before he did, and he said to me, he goes, "Wow, you really beat it up, didn't you?" I said, I don't know what it was. It was like a rare form. I kept looking at my watch, going, I shouldn't be running this fast. I should slow down. I'd ask myself, but do you feel okay? Yeah, I feel good. I'll just keep going.
Oh, that's the best.
And I told him, I said, and he agreed. I don't know. I may just go to halves because I had fun and I was done. When I was done, I still felt good. I didn't
Yeah.
feel like, okay, somebody just picked me up off the ground and drag me home because I am all spent. And but I told myself, but I don't know. I still want to do another full or two.
Oh yeah. Well, I go for it. When I'm in top form and I can do them all, the half has been my favorite
Hmm.
because of what you're saying. It's a great challenge. You really have to put a lot of energy to it,
Yep.
but you're not put out, you're not spent for as long
Yes.
in recovery like you
Yes.
are in a full.
Exactly. But
Um,
I haven't ran a lot of marathons
yeah.
in the Midwest other than Bass Pro. And then I've done Run for the Ranch. I've attempted
Hmm.
it 3 times. The first time I think was 2017. And it was so cold. It's like 14 degrees out. It was just, and I don't do cold. I'm just telling you, my
Yeah.
sweatshirt fact says, yes, I'm cold. I'm always cold.
Yep.
Um, and but I wanted to do it. My husband actually works for the Good Samaritan Boys Ranch. So
Okay.
I felt like, okay, I'm a runner. I should run this thing. And he volunteered and I ran and I made it somewhere in my sixth of the 8 loops. I was in my sixth loop, I believe. And I made the mistake and I grabbed the goo off of the table and I hadn't been training with those specific goos
Yeah.
and it made my stomach cramp up. And so then I had to walk. And
Oh,
once I slowed down and started walking, then everything in me just froze. I was just so cold. I tried to start, I couldn't make my body move. It was the weirdest thing.
yeah.
So I stopped at 20 miles, which I go, okay, 20 miles. I still ran 20 miles and I was crying. I was so mad at myself, but I just couldn't do it. And then I did it 2 more times after that, but I'm still toying with maybe doing half this year. I haven't signed up yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So cold
When
always.
when you were so upset, how did you pull yourself out of it? Because it can be pretty devastating, even though, just like you said,
Yeah.
you still did 20 miles, but in your
Yep.
head, you're like, I was 6 short
Yep. Well,
or
after
2.
I got done beating myself up,
Yeah.
mentally and verbally, um, my family always is right there. I'll tell you what,
Good.
next to God, I give God all the credit. I hope that's okay but
Yeah.
I know some of your background, so I give God all the credit for my running and that allows me to do it because I
Hmm.
feel like that is just something he allows me to do. But then next to that, my husband and my 3 grown kids, and 2 of them are married, and then my 3 little granddaughters and my sister, they are just like my biggest fans. They're always, some part of them are always with me in my races, cheering me on, running around Springfield, trying to find me at different locations and just there making signs, just and the older 2 grandbabies running with me on the street just a little ways and then stopping
Aw.
with one of their other parents. And that's just so then they're always the ones, Mom, you're great. You did an awesome job. Mom, stop. It's okay. You did awesome. So usually it's that, and then the recollection that, or the recognition that there are people who can't.
Yeah.
So
For
I need to
sure.
not whine about it. I
For
need to
sure.
just be happy with what I did, and there'll be another race another day.
Was that one of your worst experiences running? Or have you
Um,
had anything?
yes and no. Last year's Bass Pro, like I said, it took me way longer than any. I had to use
Yeah.
a porta potty a couple times. It was just I just didn't feel good. Um, Trying to think. I ran one up in Illinois, Northern Illinois one year. I've never gone back to that one. I don't have family. Okay, I'm one of these people that if I have to go and stay in a hotel and spend a lot of money, I don't go run races.
Hmm.
That's why I love running local because I can
I
sleep
do
in my
too.
own bed and eat my own food, and
It
there's no
makes a
extra expense.
difference. It makes a big
It
difference.
does.
It
It
really
does.
does.
But we got it. My sister was living up there at the time, and so we stayed with her. And we walked out to the car that morning at like 5 o'clock or something. And I walked out and I said, I am not the slightest bit chilly in my shorts and my singlet. This is a problem. And it got super
Hot.
hot during the race, and they were having to hand out ice. And I
Yeah.
did. I up to that point, I had never, other than my first marathon, I had never had to walk in a marathon.
Mm.
And I had to walk a lot in that one. And I caught myself crying and feeling like I was not doing what I should have been doing. And then I realized there were people that couldn't even finish. And I've gotten to the place where I finally have rallied around to the point it's okay to sometimes walk in a race. A lot of people will even just walk the whole thing.
Yeah.
So far be it by me to judge others for that. So I shouldn't judge myself that way. If I have to walk to finish, I'm going to walk and I'm going to finish. At least I finished.
Yeah. There's something about some of those hard races that they make you more of a runner. I think. I really do.
They do.
There's lessons in them that you only understand once you went through them.
Exactly. But my ultimate favorite,
yes,
it's called the Wine Glass Marathon. It's out in New York State.
Okay.
My husband's from New York State, not the city, but from the state, upstate New York. And it was my second marathon. So I ran Bass Pro the first time in 2011. And then in 2012, I ran the Wine Glass. And then 2 weeks later, I ran Bass Pro.
Oh, wow.
And the Wine Glass is on Old Highway. And off to the left are all the mountains, and the trees have changed color. And it was like this pipe dream where you start in one town, and we ran from one little town to the next town to the next town. And then we came back around and we came in Corning, New York. If you've ever heard of Corning Glass.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where that's from.
Oh,
and it was just, I don't know. It was just the beauty of it and just the excitement of it. We went on a trip. Of course, we saw family, but we went on a trip, and it's just, my husband said, we should go back and you should run it again. And I'm like, no, because it may not be as great the next time.
Yeah. You just want to keep that memory.
And the metal is actually made out of is glass.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So that's, and I ran Boston, and that's not even my favorite.
Wow, really? Okay, so to date, how many have you done? How many full?
I should have counted. 16.
Really? Goodness.
Yeah, I think I've done 16, and I've attempted. I had to quit a couple times. One time was in 2017. My husband wanted to do it, so I said, "Okay, we'll take it slow," and we did it together. And we had to pull out at mile 17. He was not doing well, and then it was 2 years later he had open heart surgery, because then that was when everything started to snowball with his heart. So we pulled out of that one. I pulled out of the Run for the Ranch early. I think that's the only 2 that I've quit. Yeah, I think, So, but something like that, 16 or 17 or. Yeah. And I've done one ultra. That's not for me either.
Yeah, that's still somewhat on my bucket list if I can get back into the racing, but I don't think it will be something that I ever do on a.
Have you heard of Mainly marathons?
No.
So it's just like it's spelled MAINLY MARAT, whatever, Mainly marathons. And if you just Google them, they do, and that's how I did my ultra. They do regional, and they will do them 7 days in a row in that region. You don't have to do them. I don't know how these older people have. I mean, I'm an older people, but I mean, older people have this money, and they'll go and they'll do all 7, and they walk them a lot. A lot of them will just walk them. Now, here's the thing. It's repetitive. It's the same loop around and around and around. It's not an official race. There's no official timing. They just say go. And every time you complete a loop, you grab a rubber band and you put it on your wrist so you can keep track of how many times you get around. It can get repetitive, but it's fun because there's so many people out there having fun together. And that's how I did mine. It was the first year they offered a 50K. And I had turned 50 that year. And I was like, cool. Okay, I want to do that. So I wasn't sure. So I finished the full, and I kind of stood there for a few minutes. I thought, you know what? I might as well do it. I'll never do it if I don't do it now. Yeah. So I kept going. That's how relaxed it is. So, I mean, I've done a 50K, but it wasn't timed officially or anything like that. But I can say I did it.
Yeah. No kidding. Did you walk some in that?
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit after I stopped. If I stop, that always messes me over.
I do have a hard time with that. If you stopping and starting to me is you have to learn that to stay in race form. It's always been harder for me to stop and then get going again.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but I mean, there is a talent to it. And I mean, I've seen people, I'm like, they're walking and they've crossed the finish line before me. So it happens.
Exactly.
So
exactly. I have learned, because I've always been one that, I have this good friend. She was a running coach for years. I don't think she's running as much. She's doing some biking now. She's a little bit older than I am. I think she had some injuries. She's moved from the Illinois area to somewhere out west. Can't tell you where now. And she always said, always make sure you run half and always carry your own hydration. So I'd always been one to wear a water belt with my own water bottles and stuff. And I've just gotten so I've learned that for the most part when I'm running Fast Pro because they have excellent aid
Oh,
stations.
absolutely.
And I know they struggle to get volunteers and it just breaks my heart. But so we got to have the volunteers if we're going to have races. But I've just learned that I just walk through the aid stations and because I can't drink out of a cup anyway unless I'm walking or almost stopped. And I just use that as a slow down time. I walk, I drink, and then I start going again. And I don't get weighed down from the water bottles that I'm carrying.
Mm-hmm.
Just that or my family will have them for me and they'll give them to
Yeah.
me. That's what I did at the half. They'll hand it
Yeah.
to me. I'll take a few sucks out of it and I throw it back and they pick it up for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my own cheer team. It's great.
That is great. So she said what again? Always do what?
Run happy.
Run happy.
Run happy.
Have you ever been through a phase of training where you weren't happy and you had trouble finding that
Yeah.
happy?
Yeah, I have. I
Tell
have.
me
And
about
you know
that.
what I realized? I realized that I was doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
I was too consumed by it. I was letting it control my life instead of me
Mm-hmm.
controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting upset when I would think, okay, this is how I'm going to do the things today, and I'm going to do it this and this, and then something would happen. It was just normal things, and then I wouldn't get to do it the way I wanted to, or
Yeah.
go out when I wanted to go out, or heaven forbid, my kids would need something, and I was catching up, grown kids at that point, and I was recognizing this isn't what this is about.
Yeah.
This has turned into something more than what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I kept running, but then it was finally I had this epiphany that I needed to get back to what it was all about, and the
Mm-hmm.
recollection that not everybody can do this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just wow. There was just like just something came over me. I was out running and running just became like super easy again at that time.
Oh,
So
that's good.
I go through phases and my phases now, I don't run as much as I used to. I
Yeah.
still run, but
Yeah.
today I ran on my treadmill and I ran a little
Yeah.
over 4 miles. But there was a day when I'd think 4 miles, come on, you gotta run
You
like
know,
10 or 15.
yeah.
Nah, I don't have to anymore if I don't want to.
What kind of cross training do you do?
Well, we do belong to the Evangel University gym. It's small. We can go there for free. My husband works is an adjunct there, so we can go for free. Um, but I will use like their weights, the assisted weights. I use them some.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of walking. So on a day that I don't run, I tend to walk at least on my treadmill for at least 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do some of my own things at home, push-ups,
Calisthenics.
side planks, some of that kind of stuff. I'm fighting against that whole thing after 50 and yeah. I'm
Changes.
fighting against that so that I don't change too much. I don't want to start putting weight on now that
Yeah.
I'm in my late 50s, aren't I? Yeah, I guess 57 is late 50s.
It
I
happens
just don't
fast.
want, it does. I don't want to start putting weight on when I've been the
Yeah.
size I am now for quite a while. So that's a lot of the stuff that I will do. I don't bike. I don't have a bike. Um, I did have a phase all of 2021. I couldn't run any races that I had signed up for because I got plantar fasciitis on my right foot and it would not go away. So we belonged to the Y at the time. And so I just rode the bike like crazy. And if I was supposed to have ran 10 miles that day, I rode the bike as long as it would have taken me to have ran 10 miles.
Yeah. Right.
And so I did a lot of spin that year. But so I just do a lot of that stuff on my own. I do know that stretching too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that I had asked you about one of your favorite quotes, and I
Okay.
want to know what that is. Your
Okay. I've got
favorite running
two.
quote. Okay.
I'll give you the serious one.
Okay. I want to hear them both.
Well, of course, Philippians 4:13, Romans 4:13.
Okay.
Isn't that terrible? I'm supposed to know it and I have to look. Oh my goodness. Because I was thinking about something else today and then I forgot. No, yeah, Philippians 4:13. I don't know why I was thinking Romans. Philippians 4:13. The whole premise that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I've thought that many times when I've been out running. And I just am like, I'm done. I feel like I'm dying. I'm like, okay, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I know that's kind of taken out of context in a sense. I'm using it for how it works for me. But still, if I remember the perspective and I put it into why I do it, then it's true. But it's more of a mantra, I guess, than a quote. And it's pass out before you die.
Yeah.
That's my quote. You pass out before you die. My daughter, one of my daughters, I've got 2 girls and a son. My middle one's a girl, and she had a singlet made for me that says you pass out before you die. And I've worn that at a lot of races and I get a lot of compliments on it.
Yeah.
But it's become my mantra.
Okay, before we go, and I would love for you to come back and we'll focus more on some of that fitness as we age, because I think you can speak to that. You're experiencing it. And I would love for you to talk more on that and some nutrition stuff. But before we dive too much into that next time, right now, do you have a pre-race meal and what is your post-race indulgent?
My pre-race meal is usually a piece of whole grain toast with 1 or 2 fried eggs on top.
Okay.
And always a cup of coffee. I wake up to a cup of coffee first thing in the morning with a little bit of half and half in it, no sugar, a little bit of half and half in it. And then a lot of times I'll make that second cup. So I can have one last sip of coffee before I start out. That's even just a regular run.
Yeah.
I like to have that last sip of coffee, that taste in my mouth before I take off. And I don't know why, but I like that.
Okay.
And afterwards, pizza.
Pizza. What kind?
Oh gosh, I don't care. Restaurant, takeout pizza. I love Rocco's, but I mean, just about, I don't do a lot of like the pepperoni and stuff anymore, but used to be like a super supreme, but now even if it's just a veggie pizza, that or pancakes, but I love, I'd far rather have pizza. Pizza's my top.
I love it.
Pizza's
All right.
top.
Leave us with some encouragement. Leave us runners and aspiring runners with some encouragement before we go.
Okay. You know what? Here's my encouragement, and I'll try to do it without getting teary-eyed. Run because you love it, because it's a gift God has given every one of us that runs. God has given us that as a gift. Don't ever take it for granted. I've too often seen people when I'm out running, and God, I know He does this, that are in a wheelchair, that are so severely to a point that they can't walk. And I'm always reminded, and I always thank God, thank you for reminding me again what this is all about, because it is a special thing. And we see thousands and thousands and thousands of runners, but it's still a very special thing. It's an elite group of people that can run.
It is.
So keep running, keep smiling, and do it because you can, and never take it for granted.
And if you've thought about starting and you haven't, just go and start. Don't start with any. Sometimes being a beginner is the greatest because you don't have anything to compare it to. Just go.
And start slow and try to be as runners that we've been doing it for a while. Remember what it was like to be that.
Yeah.
And be an encouragement, because if it hadn't been for my friend Karen when I was in college saying, "Come on, I'll run with you."
Oh, I love it.
I wouldn't be a runner, I don't think. So be that encouragement for somebody and encourage them and say, "Come on, let's do it together.
Go get somebody and go out and run."
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Brenda. I appreciate it. I hope you'll come back.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yes, be sure you're following along at runradio.net, all the social media at Run Radio Station. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you so much.